What's going on, everyone? So, the mystery of Scream 7 is very intriguing, right? Now, obviously, Melissa and Jenna, they're gone. A lot of questions of what direction are they going to go? How are they going to approach this upcoming Scream 7? Are we going to get some, Lakewood crossover? Are we going to get some Sidney story? Are we going to get something where they kind of just pick up where they left off and maybe explain Sam and Tara, right? There's so many different things that they could go, so many different directions. And I am excited for that mystery, right? Like I'm excited to see like what's going to be around the corner as far as Scream 7 goes, because for the most part these last handful of films, right? You kind of know the general direction, especially with these recent installments. You knew, okay, it's going to tie into Billy. It's going to have, right? Like it's also very copycat-esque of the classic trilogy, right? You had very similar motives, very similar killer styles, right? They did change some stuff, but Scream 6 is the revenge plot of a parent of the previous killer. Scream 5 is the boyfriend, right? Like, it wasn't super original. It wasn't super out of the box thinking. And, again, whether you love the movies or you hate the movies, I mean, that's what it was, right? Like, there's no going about it. Yeah, they made and added some interesting twists or whatever to it, but for the most part, the basis was we already saw this. Where now we have this freshness to where they could go so many different directions. Now, more likely than not, my guess is that this is a Sidney-centric story. I just think that that's the safest bet. I think that that's the safest approach. That's kind of what all the rumors are, which I buy the rumors simply on the fact that, yeah, it makes sense because, again, that's the safest bet. They are at the end of Scream 6, going into the Scream 7 with all these plans, all these thoughts, like a script supposedly already written with Sidney as a big part of this script. And whether that's true or not, I don't put it past them to go, okay, we need to kind of get to what works, right? And Sidney is something that works. Sidney is a character that will work. Sidney is a character that will draw in butts to seats, that you can tell a convincing story. And look, if the money's right, I fully believe Nev is going to return. And we'll see. We'll see how that goes once we actually get the announcement. Again, they are probably weeks, if not months away from us getting and having a real no in regards to what's if this film is actually coming out, when it's coming out, what's going to kind of be the idea and premise, right? Like they're probably scrambling right now as much as anybody. But something I've talked about the last few years is freshness, fresh start, right? I didn't like that they handcuffed themselves to the past. And guess what? It's looking like that was a terrible idea. Because you had Sam and you had this story that you were working towards, and you handcuffed yourself to the past, which is Billy Loomis's Billy's daughter, right? But here's the thing, the entire Scream 5 could have happened, and Sam didn't have to be Billy's daughter. There was no real reason that had to happen, other than hey, it's the bloodline tie-in. And you have the Billy ghost or hallucination, and it'd be a fun trope, right? You could have done the exact same thing. Even the same motive and everything. Richie, instead of her being Billy's daughter, she could have just been his girlfriend, and he wanted to replicate and repeat and get the films back on track and reboot the franchise, right? Everything could have happened the same. But for whatever reason, they thought it was a great idea to handcuff themselves to the past. And then I said at the end of Scream 5, because I thought it was a conclusive ending, and we found out that Sidney was not going to be in Scream 6, I was like, they should just go fresh, right? They could keep the same cast if they want, but go fresh, right? Tell a new story that isn't a tie-in, that isn't a handcuff. But they didn't. They tied it all in again. And now at the end of Scream 6, once again, in my opinion, you have a conclusive ending where Sam and Tara ride off into the sunset. They choose each other. They had this progression character-wise, and now they're good. And Chad lived, everyone lives happily ever after. Sidney is living her best life with Mark and her kids. Gail survived, so she'll get to write another book, right? Like Chad and Mindy, even though they shouldn't have survived, ended up surviving, especially Chad. Everybody survived. You get to survive, and you get to survive, and you get to survive. Like the writers of Scream 6 were Oprah out here, right? Like that's great. Well, now you're at this crossroad to where you need to figure out what you're going to do. There may never be a better time than right now to just start fresh. Make a new story with a new Ghostface. Introduce a new cast. I know not everybody loves that idea, but you're going to have to do that at some point anyway if they're going to keep making these movies, and they're probably going to keep making these movies. And guess what? If you go fresh and you start a new thing, you could probably pump out another 5 films, right? So even if you're somebody that hates the idea of starting fresh, remove your personal opinion for a moment. What is best for the longevity of this franchise? What is best for the longevity of this franchise is to make as many movies and make as much money as possible, because Spyglass and all them just spent $400 million on the rights to Scream. So they need to make as many films as possible. And they need to have as much success as possible. And I know that a lot of people only want Scream movies with Sidney Prescott, and they only want this type of stories and these type of storylines. But we're us diehard Scream fans, and I say this all the time because it's true. We are a small fish in a giant ocean as far as the people that are going to see Scream. The people that are constantly watching my videos and many other content creators in this space are a very small minority of the actual people that are going to go see this movie. The general audience, like millions will go see this movie. There's not millions of people that are diehard. Like even the guys that are much bigger than I am, Scream-wise, right? Even they don't have millions upon millions of subscribers. They don't have anything close to what the actual number of people that are going to watch this movie will be, right? So most people don't care. They just want a good story, and they want to see Ghostface kill a bunch of people. So you have this ending to this Billy arc, and now you have a new opportunity to just clean slate. There's new cast, new story, new characters ready to take on Ghostface. And you tell a good, convincing story. You provide good characters with good development. And all of a sudden, you could have another trilogy in the works. Literally. Right? Like, you could tell a new story that ties into a new trilogy. How much longer can they go on with Sam and Tara and the Billy arc and the Sidney story? And how many people are coming out of the woodworks to try to kill Sidney and all that? At some point, this was going to end. At some point, if they were going to make new Scream movies, they were going to have to go fresh anyway. Well, guess what? You could pump out movies forever, because the beauty of Ghostface is that he's not Michael Myers, where it's this one person and you keep killing him and unkilling him and all stuff, and now you have all these different timelines and all these different... The beauty of Ghostface is it's somebody different every time that is under the guise of Ghostface. So you can make movies forever if you have a good enough story, right? So they were going to do a Scream 7 that very likely was going to tie into the past and conclude this current Sam trilogy. Well, now it's not a trilogy. Now it's a duo, right? It's 2 movies. Okay, well then just be done with it. Move on. New fresh take, new fresh cast. As long as it's a good movie that has good characters, some good kills, guess what? You build it, they will come. If you have some hard-hitting scenes, some scary moments with Ghostface, keep the dark undertone, keep the more brutal, intense Ghostface, right? That's one of the things that I really liked about Scream 5 or 6. He wasn't as clumsy. Ghostface wasn't as lackadaisical out there, right? Like, to the point, you're dead, right? Stick to that. Keep that. Introduce, 5 or 6 new characters, whatever. Kill them all, except for like 2 or 3 of them. And then they carry over to the next movie, and you just start the franchise fresh. You basically reboot the franchise without having to reboot the franchise, because again, Ghostface is Ghostface. You don't need to reboot the franchise. You just have a new Ghostface with a new story, have a new motive, get fresh. I mean, a lot of people have been screaming, not just me, a lot of people have been screaming for a fresh Scream. A lot of people were upset and disappointed by the lack of creativity in Scream 5 and 6. Well, you can do that now. And, I mean, even if you start fresh, you could still have some of the little tropes or some of the little callbacks, right? Like, you could have a death scene that mirrors, Scream 2 or whatever, right? Like, maybe you have a Ghostface that stabs some chick and throws her off the balcony, right? Like CC Cooper. Right? Like, you could still have fun with it. You could still have nice little callbacks and stuff. Maybe have some little Easter eggs. Maybe this film takes place in Woodsboro and you got a new group, or it takes place in LA and, it's people that were connected to Hollywood when the killings happened. I don't know. Like, you could do so many different things. The unknown and the mystery, to me, is very exciting. That we have so many different directions in which we could go. But one, I have concerns about the writing. I mean, it's not like Scream 5 and 6 were these written masterpieces. So I definitely have my concerns that, like, this isn't going to go, that they're not going to be able to write a convincing enough story if they go fresh, and they're not going to be able to tell and build good enough characters, right? I mean, look at what they did in Scream 5. Scream 6, they did a better job. Scream 5 was, character development-wise, was terrible. And Scream 6, like, they did a much better job with Sam. I mean, Tara was good too, but, like, I still don't know who, like, Mindy and Chad are, really. Outside of just, like, their stereotype tropes of, like, the movie geek and, the jock. But, like, who are they as characters? Like, give me a new group. Don't oversaturate it. Don't convolute it. Like, keep it simple. Let's get back to the roots and the basics of Scream and tell a good, convincing movie. That's my thoughts. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you agree? Do you think, like, yeah, tell a new, fresh story? Stop trying to force all these characters and all these stories and trying to keep Sidney tied in and all that stuff. Again, I don't mind Sidney. Like, you could still have Sidney in the movie as, like, a cameo, or, like, maybe she has some role or something, right? Or maybe this is, like, the transition film, right? You could go with Sidney. Maybe I'll make a movie about that, or a video about that. Not a movie, but make a video about that, about, like, maybe making this a transition film, because that's a good idea, right? I don't know, but again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications, stay up to date with all things Scream, join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. See you all in the next one. Thank you.